Mr. Blaylock, you will be first on this next question. What role should the Federal Department of Education play in educating Edmond students? Is it currently too little, too much, or the right amount of influence from our federal government? Mr. Blaylock, 2 minutes.
What role? Less than it's playing today. Our federal government is too involved in local schools, and I don't like that. I don't know how any of you feel about that, but I don't like the federal government involved in our schools. That's too large of a concentration of power and too few people affecting too many of our future voters and future legislators or future movers and shakers. The Department of Education today is a cabinet-level position, created that way under President Carter in the late 70s. It started sometime after the Civil War. It was a small, obscure department. Sometime in the 50s, the group that it was a part of became a cabinet-level position. It was still a small department within that, and then was upscaled again under President Carter. And one way to look at that is the amount of investment, the amount of time, energy, resources that have been expended for the Department of Education, and what has been our return, yours and mine, our tax dollar return on that investment. That's been a huge increase in emphasis, time, money, and resource. Presently, our nation's students are about 30th when compared to other industrialized countries in reading, math, and science. If you go back 40 years, we weren't 30th. We were something better. We were closer to 10 or 9. The trend is down. It's not up. I don't like down trends, and I think federal government involvement is the main reason why we have a downward trend. Oklahoma is the best determiner of what Oklahoma students want to be learning, how they should be performing, how they're evaluated.
Ms. Cameron, 2 minutes.
Our district and our parents and our kids and our community are able to make decisions that affect what we do and what we do well here. I'm opposed to the federal government determining our curriculum, determining the rules of our education and governance there. I believe that within our district and our communities of parents, and I would like it to be more local and more centered around communities and more open to involvement from parents and from teachers and administrators in a collaborative effort so that we can perform well here and we can do what's best for our own curriculum and compare ourselves against the national standards. But I don't think the national standards, I like bottom up rather than top down. I want us to set the standards, and I hope that we can lead by example rather than following directions. I want us to take charge and to be and take the initiative and reforms areas and curriculum and fiscal responsibility in all those areas, and I think that we can do that best locally rather than from direction from the federal government.
Mr. Harwick, 2 minutes.
Right here is where the strongest form of government lies. It's with the local community. There's a word called federalism. It's a separation between the federal government and the state government. The federal government is limited, and the state government covers all other needs. The federal government has no authority to tell the local school boards or schools what we should do. We're the best ones to decide what our children should be. We probably have the talent to make curriculums and make the books, or have the books written here in Oklahoma. And the other part is we pay the federal government with our automatic payroll deduction. So that is our money that they hold back when we don't follow their rules. I think that I like Charles Key and Randy Bogner's the bill that they tried to pass where we funnel the federal dollars through the state, Oklahoma State Capitol, and they threaten to withhold funds for not following their educational or whatever ideas. Then they can't threaten to withhold funds. So I believe that we have the strongest form of government right here in this room, right here in Edmond, which is where the government needs to go. So I feel that the federal government is overreaching and should stay out.
Ms. King, 2 minutes.
I believe that the federal government should play a smaller role. I believe that states and even communities should establish the standards that they believe are critical to ensuring success, not the federal government. One step an initiative which Oklahoma recently adopted is the Common Core State Standards, which is a good first step that is based on states determining their own curriculum. And in 1983, the National Commission on Excellence in Education, a federal committee, issued A Nation at Risk, the Imperative for Educational Reform, which described the rising tide of mediocrity. And here we are some 23, 24 years later, and that tide seems to be continuing to rise. We're throwing money at the problem, and it doesn't seem that that money, in that amount of time, the test scores have remained flat, if anything. I think that No Child Left Behind has been a failure. I don't have another word for it. I believe that we need to push for revised state accountability metrics and assessments that match our state and our state's goals and our city's goals. I think we need to work with the legislature to achieve greater flexibility in the use of the federal funds. And I believe that once again, we need to make sure that the standards are the ones that we believe are critical to ensuring the success of our students, that we set our standards, we set our curriculum, and we don't teach to a test. We teach to our values, we teach to our community, and we teach to the realities of the community in which these students are being raised, in which they will live, and in which they will work.
Ms. Coleman, 2 minutes.
Well, the federal government, when they established No Child Left Behind, had very good intentions. However, they are expecting so much out of such a diverse group of people. And I think that their role needs to be decreased in our education here in Edmond. Right now, we spend in Edmond $5,000 to $6,000 per pupil on their education, and we are 19 in the state. Now, I think that would be hard for most of us to believe because we think of Edmond as the top. If they continue to cut the budget, and they do control our purse strings, then I don't see how they can expect test scores to be what they need to be or what they expect from us, because we have increased class sizes, we have an increase in the diversity of the students we're trying to reach, and all of those things. How can you expect a teacher to increase test scores and help their students learn when a science class has 32 students in it and they can't do hands-on experiments? It's really a difficult problem, and I do think that the federal government needs to decrease their role in local education.
Mr. Woodham, 2 minutes.
Well, you got to look at it 2 different ways. There's the aspect of money in the federal government and then the curriculum in the federal government. As a percentage of our general fund revenues this past school year, 40.91% came from local revenue. 40.58 came from, excuse me, let me back up. State revenue accounted for 40.91. Local revenue accounted for 40.58. Federal revenue accounted for 11.09. County was 3.83, and others was 3.59. So as far as receiving money from the federal government, what do we receive it for? Title I is mainly for the youngsters with reading problems. It's more or less dedicated to helping any student at any grade level reading. The other big money ticket item that we have is special needs children that we have in the district. On an average, I don't want to be quoted, it's around $6,400, $6,500 per pupil. But with our special needs kid, we will probably spend about $11,000 to $12,000 per pupil per year. So it's an expensive program. It's a needed program. I'm not saying we shouldn't do that, but that's where, generally speaking, most of our money comes from. We also work with and are part of the federal or the national school lunch program. We receive some money from them. If we didn't have that program to back it up and buying commodities and what have you, then probably most of our bills would go maybe $2 per deal for those kids. As far as curriculum, in regards to what Mr. King said, I would agree. We have past skills in all of our major curriculum areas. The teachers work with those. There's benchmarks they take. I'm not in favor of teaching the test, but to some degree that's at times what is done. I've been concerned about that, but I don't know how you can get around it. Edmond has performed well. I don't see, with textbooks, we have
Time.